When we try to make a vulnerable client completely safe, we often strip them from their independence. Traditional risk assessments focus on keeping people safe by stopping them from living, restricting their travel, their cooking, and their choices just to manage liability. In this video, you will learn how to transition to a person-centered risk assessment model that balances safety with individual autonomy. We will cover the clinical concepts of dignity of risk and positive risk taking, show you how to structure a collaborative assessment with families, and provide concrete documentation strategies to keep your agency secure and compliant. By the end of this video, you'll be able to construct safety plans that protect your clients and your organization without compromising their quality of life. To understand person-centered risk, we must first change how we define risk itself. Traditional risk management treats hazards as deficits that must be eliminated. If a client is at risk of falling, we tell them not to walk. If they might burn themselves, we tell them not to cook. But this overprotection carries its own clinical danger. Research shows that restricting choices lead to depression, rapid physical decline, and social isolation. Now let's take a look at a client called Arthur, a 75-year-old living with early-stage dementia who wants to walk to his neighborhood market alone. A traditional assessment would label this an unacceptable safety hazard and recommend supervised travel only. But Arthur's sense of purpose is tied to this daily walk. Forcing supervision on him causes him to withdraw, stop exercising, and decline cognitively. So how do we balance this? We use the concept of dignity of risk, the idea that self-determination is a fundamental human right, even when it involves a calculated hazard. Our role as a case manager is not to eliminate risk, but to understand it, discuss it openly, and support the client through shared decision making. This brings us to our second concept, positive risk taking. This is a practice of enabling individuals to take calculated risks to achieve personal growth. It is not neglect, it is a structured, intentional process. To implement this, you must run a parallel evaluation, weighing the physical hazard of an action against the psychological and social benefits. If Arthur continues walking to the market, the hazard is that he might get lost or fall. The benefit is that he maintains his mobility, retains cognitive mapping skills, and stays connected to his community. To apply this clinically, you use a risk-benefit matrix. Instead of banning the walk, you co-design a plan. Arthur agrees to carry a cell phone with a GPS tracking app and wear an identification bracelet. The community market staff are made aware of his routine. We have mitigated the physical hazard while fully preserving the psychological benefits. This is positive risk-taking in action. If you manage waiver services or community-based programs, this approach is more than an ethical obligation, it's a legal requirement. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, HCBS settings rule strictly regulates rights modifications. You cannot simply restrict a client's freedom because it's easier or safer for staff. Under the federal rule, if you modify a client's rights, such as locking a kitchen or restricting unscheduled community access, your documentation must prove that you did so based on specific, individually assessed need. Your files must document every less restrictive intervention that was tried and failed before the modification was put in place. If your auditors do not find this progression, your agency risks severe compliance citations. A person-centered assessment is the only legally defensible way to satisfy these requirements. So how do we actually perform this assessment? We use a structured collaborative framework involving the client, their family, and the clinical team. The first step is establishing the client's desired outcome. What specifically do they want to do? Second, you identify the physical hazards and the personal benefits of that activity. Third, you measure the risk tolerance. This step is crucial because families and clinicians often have a lower risk tolerance than the individual client. This is where clinical screening tools can help us. Tools like the GAD-7 are incredibly helpful here. While the GAD-7 is not a risk-benefit template, it measures the severity of generalized anxiety. Often, a client's or caregiver's extreme aversion to risk is driven by clinical anxiety rather than realistic physical danger. Scoring the GAD-7 helps you address those psychological barriers directly, allowing you to design a more rational, objective safety plan. Once this collaborative assessment is complete, you translate those findings into a written plan. We call this an individualized safety support plan. This document must not read like a list of administrative prohibitions. It should clearly outline the active supports that would be provided to help the client succeed. If a client wants to manage their own medications but has a history of forgetfulness, the plan should not state that the case manager must dispense the pills. Instead, it should document that the supportive tools, such as an automated dispenser, color coded pill organizer, or medication reminder application. By building supports around an individual's goals, you keep them engaged in their own care. This collaborative buy in is why person centered planning significantly reduces hospital readmissions. Clients are more likely to follow a plan they helped create. Our final step is documenting this process to mitigate professional liability. When a client takes a calculated risk, there is always a chance of an incident. Your documentation is your organization's protection against claims of negligence. To make your files audit ready, you must write objective, detailed clinical notes. Never write a note that simply states a client refused advice. Instead, document that you discussed specific choices, reviewed the potential consequences of those choices, evaluated less restrictive mitigation options, and reached a shared agreement. State clearly what supports the client accepted, what they declined, and when the safety plan will be reviewed. This shows auditors, regulators, and legal teams that you exercised clinical due diligence and honored the client's legal rights under a structured professional framework. Let us review the key takeaways from today's training. First, physical safety must not come at the expense of psychological well being. Respect the dignity of risk. Second, positive risk taking allows clients to retain their functional independence through calculated risk benefit planning. Third, regulatory compliance under CMS settings rule requires you to document less restrictive interventions before modifying any client rights. Fourth, always use clinical screening tools like the GAD-7 to assess how psychological factors and anxiety affect those safety decisions. Finally, defend your clinical decisions by keeping flawless progress notes that prove you followed a collaborative, person centered process. Structuring these workflows, maintaining compliant documentation, and tracking risk plans across your entire care team can be incredibly difficult without the right tools. Case Management Hub is designed to solve this problem. Our cloud based platform comes equipped with integrated form templates, a customizable client alert system, secure file storage system, and built in clinical tools, including the GAD-7 screening form, to make your documentation secure, collaborative, and completely audit ready. Stop struggling with static checklists and fragmented paper plans. Click the link in the description below to start your free trial of Case Management Hub today and start empowering your clients with a modern, person centered approach to care coordination. Once you click the link, you'll be brought to this page. Just enter your first name, last name, and email, as well as your organization name, and select your practice area. We also recommend that you enter a phone number. And once you're done, you'll be brought to the main dashboard, which allows you to perform quick actions among many other things. And we're going to see how easy it is to add a new client and then send them one of our form templates. So step one, you want to navigate to the clients module from the sidebar. If you've chosen a different audience type when creating your account, that type will be shown here instead of the word client. All right, step two, we're going to click the plus button here on the top right. And you're given two options, so you can either manually add a single client, or I can add several clients through an import spreadsheet. We're going to do add manually. So step three, we're going to add a first and last name and an email address. And because we want to send forms to this client, we're going to put a check mark in send client account invitation. Another quick tip is there are several other options on this pop-up, such as who or which staff is assigned this particular client, as well as some other options under more, such as phone. You could modify the client ID, assign the particular client to a program, or an incoming referral source. Once you're ready, click Save. Step four, we're going to click on Send Forms with Invite here at the top. What you can go and do is you can go and choose the forms that you want to send. So I want to send GAD, go send GAD, and then when you're ready, click Send. Step five, you actually want to go back to the Forms module, and this will allow you to track whether forms have been completed or are still pending. You can click the count on either the pending or the completed column. And don't forget to like this video, as it lets me know that you've received value from it. You can also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss great content like this one.